Hello everyone, my name is Ben Scorpion and welcome to the Solstice event. So, for those that don't know, the Solstice is going on and this is basically the summer event for Destiny 2, which if you don't know what it was, originally it was kind of a reflection on the year. When it was first implemented, we went through some hard, air quotes, version of the Red War campaign for remembrance reasons, but nowadays it's kind of hard to say what it's usually about because well, basically, it used to release just before the next year of Destiny, but because of release date pushbacks, now the release date of Destiny is much out of line for when Solstice happens. So it's pretty much just the general summer event. Now, if you don't know what to do about it, I will go through it in a brief detail, but now it is time to get into what is going on throughout the world. So, when you actually do go into everything, you do have a current active Valor booster for the Crucible, which is a bit ridiculous because after grinding literally 2 resets of Iron Banner in 3 days, I managed 2 resets of Iron Banner and I'm not even halfway through Shaq's experience. Like, come on, what happened to Valor boost during Iron Banner, please? But aside from that, if you actually go for your strikes, I'm starting with the weapon this first time because I'm not exactly sure what it is. But if you wanted to go for it, it is currently the Swarm for our Nightfall weapon. So that is what is available for the Adept. Now, it's hard for me to vouch for this honestly because my preferred role was deleted when it got refreshed into today. So while it still has some pretty solid roles for a machine gun and being Adept allows Adept big ones, Adept mag, a lot of good extra buffs on top of that. It's hard for me to vouch this one just because my GM role of Unrelenting and Dragonfly, which I know it sounds weird, but I promise it's good, does not exist anymore. So, I don't know if I can vouch for it exactly. But then going into our playlist, just to start off, with the Vanguard for our Nightfall, we currently have it in the Cosmodrome for the Disgraced, which is a moderately easy hard one, if I could put it, is easily a mid-tier Grandmaster. The final boss is very chunky, even though you can easily, in some cases, just kind of keep her staggered. But to go through the modifiers, it is mostly Hive and Fallen throughout, so you will see Arc, Solar, and Void Shields. Barrier and Unstoppable champions, including some Barrier Servitors, Barrier Knights, and Unstoppable Ogres. Then Arc Threat for an increase to incoming Arc damage, so most of the Fallen, Hive, Boomers, and the final Wizards will be annoying. Then Grandmaster modifiers are the usual for Extinguish, Limited Revives, Fire Pit for defeated Acolytes spawning fire pools that cause damage over time, Chaff for no radar, and then going into our buffs, we have the usual seasonal overcharge weaponry, as well as Arc Surge and Strand Surge, as well as Overcharge Glaive. So if there was, well, actually there is no Strand Glaive, so I can't exactly suggest that. But if you want to zap some things easy, or, well, I don't know what I'm talking about, because Surges and Overcharges don't work together. But aside from that, like I said, you do get access to Swarm Adept if you manage to complete it. Then nothing new in Gambit as usual, and like I said before, there is currently a rank booster active for Crucible, so if you wanted to climb the ranks and get through as much of the, well, let's just say rank as possible, now is the time. And with Rift as our relentless objective mode, oh, that's not good. And Team Scorch as our rotation, that is something that you can do as well in case you just want to play Crucible and not play just fight everyone modes. And as well, I don't know, well, actually, I'll circle back around to that. So in terms of our rotations, currently it is Deepstone Crypt for our raid farm, which means all challenges are active for the usual. And if anyone that needs the red borders from this raid still from any individual encounter, grab a group, farm that one encounter, hopefully you can get a few red borders to drop. And then as well, let's see, for the dungeon, I think it is all the way back to, no, not back to Duality, it is back to Pit of Heresy. So if you wanted to farm out some of the armor from the final encounter, or just run it through for a quick pinnacle, I would recommend that. The weapons from this one aren't exactly iconic, so it's hard to vouch for farming that way. But then in terms of our raid rotations in the rest of the world, for the Dreaming City, we have the Keep Out challenge, which I think that's Vault challenge. Then into Garden of Salvation for the Moon raid, we have the Link to the Chain challenge, which I believe is also First Encounter challenge, unless that's something different. I think it's First Encounter. But then Last Wish, and then checking the Throne World for the variety. On Vow of the Disciple, it is currently base information, which is basically Second Encounter challenge where you have to kill the Caretaker while only picking one of the buffs at a time on the post. Then going into our Legends tab for our raid rotations, Vault of Glass, we have Ensemble's Refrain, which is Atheon Challenge. Basically, you cannot break more than one oracle in a wave when they appear inside the time stream. And for King's Fall, Under Construction, which I believe is Daughter's Challenge. I forget. No, wait, no, that's Floor's Lava. Under Construction, I think, is... Wait, I said it was go... Actually, it might be Daughters. I forget. Oh, no, Under Construction might be Floor's Lava. And then getting into Root of Nightmares on Neptune, it is currently the Illuminated Torment Challenge, which is first encounter challenge. Basically, anyone who has the Blessing of Light, or whatever the light buff is in the first encounter, has to be the person that lays the final blow on any of the Tormentors in the arena. Then as well, it is recovery-focused armor for Master Mode, and then the usual modifiers seasonal-wise of Arc Surge and Strand Surge, and Overcharged Shotgun, as it always is. Now, while we're on Neomuna, just to continue with it, our current Vex Incursion Zone is Ahimsa Park, and then it is the Partition Ordnance, aka the annoying one, and then in terms of that, with our weekly mission, it is also the First Contact, the first mission in the campaign, which honestly is probably the quickest for the farming, so if you wanted to go through and just grind this out for either high-stat armor or send an alloy, this is probably the week to do it, because as much as it's not breakneck for farming, it's a pretty short completion, if a little bit of a condensed fighting one. Then, speaking of seasons, time to get into it. So our current Defiant Battleground on Legend mode is in the Cosmodrome, and then our Legend Salvage, the arraignment, is Fallen with Site Security, Site Reliability, and Engineering, with the final boss being Urgotha, the Taken Ogre, with the modifiers of being Seasonal Overcharge, Arc Surge, Strand Surge, Fusion, and Sword Overcharge. Then Denial for taking Vandals spawning their shield more often, a Solar Threat, and all three types of champions, and all three types of shields. And of course, because it is Legend mode, there is extra shields and equipment lock. Then, as well with the deep dives, like I said before, I'm not exactly sure what boss will it be, because supposedly it rotates every now and again. But basically, it's, if I remember our week, it is back to Kelgaroth, if I remember things right. But then, checking in with Eternity, this as one of our last things for the world before we get into seasonal challenges for the week. On Master or Legend mode, Eternity is Fallen, Hive, and Zydron for its rotations. Now, a funny thing happened when I was on last night. I know I was on pretty late, like even towards 1 in the morning, but my Week 9 challenges were available early, so I completed one of them at random. But basically, Rapid Salvager for rapidly defeating combatants in salvage activities, Patience Perfect for catching legendary or exotic fish at any pond, Ritual Ornament for acquiring any ornament for Last Rite from any of the playlist vendors, and then there's Eyeing Iron for completing Crucible matches, which says bonus progress in Iron Banner for victories, but Iron Banner ended ended the last week. There's no more Iron Banners for the rest of the season, and this is asking for Iron Banner technically. So I don't know. Bungie maybe shot themselves in the foot with that. Then we also have Ethereal Might for defeating targets with an Arc Strand or Void subclass equipped in Gambit. Bonus progress is granted for ability final blows and Guardian defeats. And then Rapid Precision for getting Rapid Precision final blows. Bonus progress is granted for every target defeated after the second one. So that is your second to last week of challenges. Now these are a good source of Bright Dust in case you wanted to buy things. And last minute leveling, some of these are definitely very good because if you don't know, with the experience, the pluses is basically how much it gives you. So with like the Ritual Ornament and Rapid Precision, and technically Ethereal Might, these are very good sources of experience for the next week of challenges. Now, getting into the Solstice before I get into the variety of other armors. If you don't know what Solstice is in terms of just generally how it works, is front and center while wearing the armor, and I will say wearing the full set of armor, so your build might be a little bit screwed for a while, but you'll still have stats and full mods. But basically, in the information section here, you earn silver leaves from completing activities with the Sunlit armor. Wearing a full set grants the most per activity. Launching into the Bonfire Bash activity and stoke the bonfire to turn the leaves into silver ash. The more you contribute to the game mode and the better you do as a group, the more silver leaves can be transformed into ash. Now the ash can be used to essentially improve stats on your sets of armor, so going forward you'll get better stats on those armors in case you want to keep your hold on it. But then as well, in addition to that, there's completing event challenges, which will give you kindling, which is required to be basically to earn your glows on these armors. Now, doing so grants access to better embers and stat roll choices for sparks as well. Now, glows can be acquired from the sunlight armor by fully rekindling an armor piece and by applying kindling. But looking at it, when you inspect any of your armor, you see the usual mod slots. Right here is for your or your kindlings, and right here is for your stats in case you wanted to re-roll. But basically, unlocking embers is completing challenges. You earn a certain amount of kindling depending on the type. And for all your armor to get through tier 1, you'll need a collective of 5 kindling. To tier 2, you'll need a collective of 10 kindling. And for the last one, you need a total of 15 to get all of your armor to the end. Now, per the usual, this is going to be some sort of a grind thing. It will likely result in, if you want to do all of your characters, you're going to have to do most of the Solstice challenges. Now, if you're like me, you personally don't prefer PvP, there's likely going to be Crucible or Gambit encounters and maybe even Dungeon or Raid. So this is one of those encounters, if you need to do LFG, I definitely recommend it, because while you do have 3 weeks, if you put it off, there's a chance this will fly right by. And like I said, you do have 3 weeks total. You see an event time here. And in addition to Solstice, there's the usual event card that you can buy and usual new cosmetics in case you want to do it, but I will cover the cosmetics in a separate video. But speaking of Solstice as well, the new weapon is a Strand rocket launcher. I know people have been paying attention to that, which is the first of its kind in terms of Strand rockets, but it is probably the least effective of its kind, considering most people don't like the tracking rockets because, you know, that means basically least damage per rocket at base. But hopefully it has a set of good rules to wane the whiners. That's a great statement. But then getting into our loadout options from Banshee, basically, from the front we have Lodbrok C, a high-impact Hake auto rifle. With rolls like Kill Clip, this thing could definitely melt a little bit, and Fragile Focus is a little bit of a helper in terms of the PvP department. Although, I really want to like and recommend high-impact frame Hake auto rifles, but it just seems like they're really not there in the PvE. Then a crafted Arc Glaive, possible with Nezarac's Whisper. While this roll is pretty solid, just because I know Genesis is really good on glaives in like legendary campaigns, with the amount of extra random overshields that have been appearing, but it is still craftable, so I'd recommend crafting what you want from this. Same with Austringer. While this roll is pretty solid, I know Eye of the Storm Rangefinder or Eye of the Storm Moving Target is some people's more preferred Crucible-wise, but of course it is still one of the best performing hand cannons and still craftable, so enhanceable. Then we also have Threaded Needle, which used to be one of the god tier weapons for damage. With the Vorpal nerf, though, this has not been as light of days. But if you need a good linear fusion rifle, you could definitely do a lot worse. But this is probably one of the better options, even if Vorpal isn't what it used to be. And then Contingency Plan. Now, in terms of Crucible, this one might be a little bit hard to pull off because One for All ain't exactly great. But I would recommend this one if it had something like Kill Clip Crucible-wise, just because it's pretty easy to get Kill Clip. And once this thing has it going, it is a 3-tap. And most people don't expect a 3-tap from something that shoots this quickly, so it is a very much sneak attack. Then also into the main weapons, we have Legal Action 2, a high-impact frame Hake, but not Hake, Pulse Rifle, because it doesn't have any origin trait. This one was one of those ones that got redone back in Season 15, but I wish it had waited a season longer, because this is personally a favorite pulse, with things like Surplus hanging up on the left side, Rampage or Kill Clip on the right side, things like that. This is a very solid, consistent pulse rifle. Then Prestige D, a high-impact frame Hake, actual Hake, Scout Rifle, which is Stasis with access to things like Headstone. This is an off-brand meta for your Stasis loadouts, just because high-impact frame Scouts, again, while they might be a little bit handy in PvP because they can pretty much 3-tap from any range, most people don't really use these in PvE unless it's things like Shoot to Loot and the variety. Then we also have Fiorita, which is a rapid-fire sidearm, which is Suros, so it's generally more Crucible-based. With access to moving target and hip-fire grip, this seems almost like it's meant to be used in any sort of way, whether flying and shooting from the hip or strafing aim-down sights. But fun sidearm, but not the most meta. Then we also have Hand in Hand from last season, which is a arc aggressive frame shotgun of the gunsmith variety, so it has the field test origin trait, always great. And it has some pretty simple perks. Now, while hipfire grip might be a little bit nutty for shotguns here and there, I wouldn't recommend it, but things like Golden Tricorn always fits in the build, especially with arc, considering how lethal arc abilities can be. But I would also maybe recommend a different setup. Then we also have Memory Interdict, which is, from what I'm hearing from my buddies now, possibly one of the best Crucible-based grenade launchers in the game. But in PvE-wise, I would definitely say look for something better, just because this thing is kind of hard to support on my frame, just because it's not craftable. But speaking of craftable, we have a God roll here. So if you don't know, Palmyra B is craftable and is pretty easy to find, so leveling up would be good. But if you need a stand-in rocket launcher that is pretty damage meta, especially with the shot swap build, auto-loading explosive light is one that you cannot go wrong on. And wrapping it up with our shaders, we have a repeat of Bergrusian Knight, which if I recall seeing a few weeks ago. But basically, this was from the Black Armory. It was a rare one because you can only access it through getting a unique roll on a variety of weapons. And it is animated, you can't exactly see it in the wide preview, but if you preview it on things like a weapon, you will notice it. But a pretty solid, just general purple shader nonetheless. We also have Kairos Gold, back from Season of the Mercury, or Season of Osiris, which is actually not half bad looking in a Solstice gear, but I remember it being a little bit better on general armor. It's hard to say whether or not this is something worth going for, though, except for collections. And of course, New Monarchy Succession, which is one of the red and gold standouts, and it looks very good on Solstice gear, because, I mean, you can see here, it basically keeps the gold and then adds a spark of red with a very lively look to it. But with that, my name is Matt Scorpion. This has been the Reset Update. Now, of course, like I said, Solstice goes for 3 weeks. I will have a video better explaining the details of it hopefully soon. If not, this is at least the basics, and of course, there will always be other people that will go more in-depth than I can, just in case I can't. With that, my name is Matt Scorpion, and I'll see you in the next video.